Good morning, social media family members, friends, and hopefully our fan base. With me today is a friend, a new friend, a recent connection, Allison Aviles. Allison, can you share with everyone a quick hello?
Hey everyone, I'm very excited to be here. Looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes, and hopefully, we can share some enlightening info with our audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Allison, I know recently I started a conversation with you asking you to commit your time, your energy, and leverage your personality and skills to do this with me. And what we're trying to create, audience members, is a video podcast where Allison and I are your co hosts. And of course, we've named our podcast Leave It to the Experts. So, with that said, let me set the tone here. Um, I think in both of our businesses, and maybe in your business as well, but also your personal lives, there are certainly some things, maybe a lot of things, that you should never DIY, do it yourself. Why? Because there's so many reasons, right? You're not an expert, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough tools. So, describing that to be the reason why we headlined and named our podcast this way, Allison, what can you share with our audience members as to what they can expect in upcoming episodes?
So, I think the best way to describe what our audience can expect would be engaging conversations with experts in their respective fields. And what I hope our audience gets out of it is a sense of empowerment to make informed decisions about really important things in their lives. I mean, we're going to be speaking with attorneys, medical professionals, salespeople, you name it, really, in a number of different verticals. So, empowering our audience to not necessarily become an expert on those topics or in those areas, but to save time by knowing where to go, who to contact, when to ask for help, um, what to expect when you do, and just knowing kind of when you might be in over your head and when it is the right scenario to leave it to the experts.
Right on, right on. And so, with that, in the business that you are in now and the business that I participate in with you, let me share this with you, Allison. There was a moment in time in my life where I DIY'd selling a home. And here is what I'm about to tell you. I thought it was going to be easy peasy. And when we got onto the other side of finishing the process, I remember both my wife and I looked at each other and kind of like said without really saying it, we don't want to do that again.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So
Absolutely.
right. So to that point, that's why back to the name and the headline of our podcast, leave it to the experts. There are certain things, even though you may know enough about how to do it, it just doesn't make sense for you to do it because of um, lack of time, lack of tools, and a lack of what I call mojo, right? The magic of doing it quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Allison, talk to us about this. Before your career and your business of real estate, what are some similarities when you were busy marketing and selling medical solutions to the medical industry? How does that relate to the real estate, the business of real estate right now?
It's interesting because I think that when I first started my medical sales career roughly 18 years ago, I think that, well, we know that the world was just a very different place. We didn't have smartphones. We were not using social media, especially in a professional sense. So the whole landscape of trying to bring awareness to a product or a service or a therapy or some tool was very different. It felt very grassroots. And so you lean on other tools in your toolbox, like your relationship building skills or just, tenacity of knocking on enough doors enough times to get the job done. And the uphill battle with that many years ago is that you're one person covering a large geography with a lot of different call points and many different stakeholders in a decision making process. So, what I gleaned from that was how to herd cats, cater to a lot of different, oftentimes very strong personalities, and sort of adapt to different selling environments and the different kinds of conversations and the different the different interactions that all are part of the recipe to get one deal over the finish line.
Hmm.
And especially in my capital sales experience, when there may be anywhere from 6 to a dozen internal stakeholders involved in the decision making process, you learn a lot about patience, about professionalism, about follow up. And I think reflecting back now, the other thing that I really had to work on and have hopefully honed over my career is this sort of emotional detachment, not taking things too personally, understanding when to cut bait, and just becoming a little more intuitive regarding how I interact with different personality types and people who are in different roles. That has changed. The landscape has changed so much over the years now that we have this incredible tool with things like video streaming and social media and text messaging, where you can reach a much wider audience, quite
Hmm.
frankly, with a lot less effort. But the flip side of that is now your reputation really becomes your currency, and your brand, whether you're aware of it or not, your brand is being cultivated from the very first time that you hit enter on a post on social media, or the very first mass email you send, or the very first marketing campaign that you launch. So having to be aware of those things and sort of, carefully guard that reputation for myself and for my clients, I think is a valuable transferable skill to real estate. So just understanding how to position someone's biggest asset that they care so much about, their pride and joy, their home, how to market that to a wide audience while at the same time being careful of the brand that you're creating.
Yeah, very, very well said. And, my perception is with your previous career, marketing and selling medical solutions, it is that of providing that toward a life event, right? It's either improving someone's life, saving their life, and the life events, I should say, that sometimes compel engaging local professionals like you to sell and or buy real estate. It kind of marries itself to a very similar path.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that really transcends probably any industry, but particularly something that jumps out at me from medical device sales into real estate is understanding that for most people, the perceived pain of loss,
Mhm.
the negative implications. What if I don't make this purchase? What if I don't pursue this path? If I don't implement this tool? If I don't accept this offer on my home? The perceived pain of what that would mean is far greater, weighs more heavily than the win.
Yeah.
What do I get if I do this? What happens if I don't do this seems to land with people and resonate more and um, provoke more action than what happens if I do this. So just, kind of understanding, I guess, the psychology that drives people to take an action to meet their needs. And it took me a long time to flip my perspective and flip my approach to understanding that it's not what we think we can do for our customers and our clients. It's what they think we can do for them.
Yeah.
And just really taking ourselves out of the equation and helping people to recognize the problem that they may have before they even see it, to
Right.
anticipate that for them, and then, of course, lead them to our solution and help them understand why our solution is the best one for their problem.
Yeah. Very well said. And just like um, the business of selling medical solutions, the business of real estate, I've shared this with enough people that know me. It's a team sport. There's so many participants, contributors into the process, right? And my belief is at the end of the day, while the outcome is what everyone is expecting, would you comment to this, Allison? What's the differentiator? From my side of the business, I believe the differentiator is driving toward an outstanding client experience. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely, and so much more so in real estate
Yeah.
because in my previous life, when you're providing something that is truly novel, I've only worked for startup companies. So anything that I've ever represented, it may be duplicated now, it may be commoditized now, but at the time that I was representing it, it's not only introducing a new product or service or widget, it's shifting a paradigm
Right.
and selling conceptually, sometimes without something tangible to show. And then it's really a team sport because you have to align with other people in the ecosystem of this customer who they also trust and lean on and bring value to all those people as well because you're doing something really disruptive.
Hmm.
Um, in real estate, I feel like the concept of this being a team sport is so much more important because, and as well as in lending, because we rely so heavily on referrals. When you're selling something novel to a surgeon or a hospital or a health system, chances are you're going to transact with them once, maybe twice in your lifespan representing that thing, whatever that thing is. At least in my experience, selling high dollar novel items, you're just only going to sell so many to one person. In our business, creating that amazing experience, that positive experience that leaves people with a good taste in their mouth and a warm fuzzy feeling in their heart is important because we're looking to our sphere, our past clients for referrals
Yeah.
throughout a lifetime. So, whether or not someone ends up transacting with me and completing a sale or signing a lease or making a purchase, I still want them to feel like, wow, she really represented my best interests. And even though maybe my deal didn't work out, I want to send my sister, my aunt, my neighbor to go work with Allison and Bill.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. And so, to that point, for all of those fans of Allison in the medical world, whether you are a physician, a support staff at a hospital who benefited from her magic delivering for you what you needed, right on, well said. Drop your comments, by the way, if you're watching this, wherever
Only
you
nice
are.
ones.
Only nice ones. Yes, of course. So my next question, Allison, is this. Describe now in the business that you're in, describe the avatar or avatars of your ideal clients so that we can help you.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one a lot. And even when I first got my real estate license, I had a very specific kind of niche avatar, a niche path in mind. And I had heard this phrase that the riches are in the niches.
Yes.
And I think that's true to a certain extent. Um, but at the same time, you have to have a broad enough appeal and cast a wide enough net to hopefully capture some of these ideal avatar clients. And the ones who are not ideal, well, I'm still going to help them. If you want to work with me, I want to work with you as long as we've got a mutually respectful, mutually beneficial relationship. But in terms of an ideal avatar, I would say someone who knows themselves and knows what they want and is realistic about their expectations, but at the same time, someone who can be at least a little bit adaptable. Because just like my experience in the medical device world, real estate is a very dynamic environment, especially now. There can be heartbreak and loss and elation and confusion and a whole cycle of emotions involved in the length of time that we're going to be working with these clients. So someone who's realistic about their expectations, who's decisive, who knows what they want, someone who is prepared, who is open to accepting some guidance. I don't want to call it coaching, but our podcast is called Leave It to the Experts. And if you're working with me, I hope it's because you consider me to be an expert in real estate, whether it's a neighborhood expert or a certain type of property or a specific kind of transaction. So understanding that I'm here to guide you and support you and represent your best interests, I'm going to shoot you straight. So my ideal avatar client has to be someone who is able to accept and absorb some harsh news from time to time, but is generally looking for the positive. You don't want to go on a showing. You don't want to go on 5 showings in a day with a
Right.
client, and that client spends the entire time picking out everything they hate about every property you've been to, and isn't able to pull out anything positive or something where they can say, well, I really don't like how they did the kitchen in this property, but it made me realize that what I'm looking for is this.
Yes.
So someone who can rebound, who can pivot, um, and just we're going to have fun too. It's not all business. We're going to have some fun along the way, but you got to be adaptable.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And the experience that I think any client goes through in terms of achieving that outstanding experience, yeah, you have to adapt because things get thrown at us sometimes unexpectedly.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's just beyond our control. We may all be in love with a property, and then we get to the inspection, and there's just something that we can't overcome,
Yeah.
and you got to
Yeah.
walk away. And that's hard, but wasting time getting stuck down in that rut is not going to help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. As we wrap up, one last question, Allison. So, for the audience members who are watching this and they're thinking and nodding their head, hey, I think I'm the avatar of your client, help them to answer this question. Why reach out to you? Why Allison?
I am a big believer that like attracts like. And what I'm finding so far in real estate is that I have attracted a lot of clients who are going through big changes in their lives: career change, divorce, planning for retirement, starting a family, expanding a family. And similarly, in the last few years, I have also been through a lot of life changes. And so I understand how that can throw your whole world into a tailspin. So, when it comes to buying or selling a home, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of parties involved. There's a lot of jargon. It can be
Yeah,
very overwhelming. And if there's one area in which I think I really excel head and shoulders above the rest, it is harnessing all of that and reducing the overwhelm and saying, you relax, I will handle it.
right
Let
on.
me be your gatekeeper. Let me cut through the BS for you. And when I have an update, I will be respectful of your time. We'll get to the next step and then the next step and then the next step. But let me deal with the noise and the nonsense. You take care of your life, your family, your job, and I'll handle the rest.
Yeah. And great answer to that question. Um, Directly answering the question, I am sure many people who are watching this first episode of our podcast, Leave It to the Experts, who may be contemplating, right? It's human nature. It's easy to contemplate, hey, maybe I want to DIY, do it myself. But at the end of the day, when you really think about it, you might come to the conclusion, I really need to reach out to an expert to help me save time, avoid hassle, aggravation, and get to that outcome as efficiently as possible. So, audience members, as we wrap up our first episode today, here is what you can expect. We intend to drop our podcast every 2 weeks on social media. So if you have enjoyed today's first episode, here is my ask of you. Drop into your posted comment your feedback for us, or drop into your posted comment someone you know who just might be interested to guest in one of our upcoming episodes. If you can share that feedback with us, our intention is to give you, curate enough guests to help you, guess what? Get to the outcome that you want. So as we wrap it up today, thank you for joining us. Until we see each other again in about 2 weeks. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.